Did you try out a new NARR engine? Because you tried the previous version, but there's a lot that happened afterward.
Yeah, I did. And I like it. It's prompting me more now. It wants more from me, which I like. It's actually, so my most recent one, I was actually doing it just before the call. I was just reflecting on, I can bring it up. Yeah, so I was sharing that begin with the end in mind. Like that keeps coming up. I don't know why that keeps coming up. Like I guess through the people I listen to. Have you heard of Kathleen Cameron?
No.
She talks a lot about, well, coaches generally talk a lot about begin with the end in mind and work yourself backwards. So that's where I've just been trying to have my thinking in more recent times, because I don't, you know, that the linear approach is Newtonian physics of step by step by step, and that's how you get to somewhere. But no, if you've got a big goal, big fantasy goal, wherever it is, and you've already achieved it, right? You've got this goal and you're working your way backwards. So I was just having a conversation with NARR just a moment ago, actually. Like because I keep thinking about this, like, why do I revert back to the mechanical person, and I want to stop doing that. Like, as in step, you know, needs to do this step and implement this funnel, and I don't think I need to do any of that. I just got to change what's in my mind. So it's almost like I was having this therapy conversation with NARR, and NARR wants more from me. And I didn't actually get to the post part, but yeah, we've been having a back and forth for the last kind of hour. I really like it because it's more in depth now. What have you done exactly? It just wants more from me each time.
Well, that's the secret sauce of the chef.
Can't reveal the recipe.
Yes. Well, there is a few things right now that have been implemented that weren't there before. So it selects the right framework based on the input that you give it. So before I had trained it on different frameworks, and it was already like preset which framework, and now it's varying between frameworks, but it's also varying between different LLMs. So for one input that you give it, one request, it could use Claude. For another one, it could use Groq, or for another one, I've actually implemented now 6 different LLMs.
It's powerful.
And there is also a Hemingway Editor implemented. So you will see if you go to refine and you created an output, you can actually see and you can tweak also. You can see which of the storytelling frameworks was used. And you can say, I want another storytelling framework. For instance, I want the story brand framework. And then it will give you a ranking or grading on how high it scores on that framework and what in the story you should adjust to make it according to that framework. And then it also gives you like a score. So that is, I think, the biggest improvement that I've done so far to the tool. And then also there is the voice engine of latest one of Groq has been implemented. So it now works so much better with voice.
I can see that already just from the output. And what I like about it, because previously on the previous version, I liked the text that was coming out, but I didn't really like the structure of. So I was still, because I guess you may have, or may not have done this with Mac GPT. I've got a voice profile in there, so anything I put in there, it just adapts to my voice, and it's complete sentences, because I don't like the one word sentence like it sometimes does. But I know in the new version it's not doing that as much. So I know the writing structure and framework is so much more improved, and yeah, it's exciting. I mean, my post I put yesterday was about my corporate job. It was one of my best performing posts for a while, and again, I did that through NARR. I had a conversation. I think I had a conversation with the old version, so who knows what it can do with the new version. On it straight after this call.
And did the process now that you did with the new version feel different from what you expected? And how would you describe that?
I would describe that as being, it wants more depth. No, like, even though the previous version asked for depth, this is, It's asking me to talk, like, who is the message for? It's not just, okay, great insight, let's talk about the philosophy. It's like, who is it aimed at, which I like. It's like, okay, you've got this great message, and it's not even that complimentary. I keep saying great, but it's actually saying, yes, this is valuable, but how can this be used? What person needs to hear this? What stage are they at? And how can it improve how they work? So it's got me thinking, yes, I'm reflecting on how I feel, but it's saying, okay, this is valuable, but who should it be directed at? So then it's getting me to think, okay, because ultimately I want it to appeal to my ideal client. But at the same time, I can help people beyond my ideal client. But I feel like, and what we've learned is that it needs to be niche. So it is aimed at people being the ICF-credentialed coach, but I just go off on one. That's the problem. When I get talking to it, because I am doing the voice, I am literally just hitting dictation, and I just, almost like closing my eyes, and it's just flowing. And
amazing. I didn't try that even myself, closing my eyes. I should do that. Because that's where like things surface much better, right?
That's right. And you can even, it doesn't matter if you pause, because you can have thinking time, isn't it? You're not in a rush to get across your thoughts and what comes to you, because we're trying to recall things that are locked away from, it could be 6 months, a few years, and then it's almost like when you feed into how you felt at that time and what prompted or triggered that emotion, it is therapeutic, because I like to actually get across, I guess, how it made me feel and what action did I take as a result of that, and how can this be relatable to someone who reads it.
And was there a moment where you felt like that it got more emotional?
So on my previous post, which was yesterday, I was talking about my corporate job, and I don't really want to keep talking about that because I don't want it to be like a dig at my previous employer. So I've said that now. I won't talk about it for a while. Let's talk about something else, because I don't want to just keep talking about corporate life and having a dig at, because it may come across like that. And maybe I'm overthinking it, that I'm having a dig at people, but there's more to me than the corporate life. So let's talk about something which is a bit more exciting and uplifting, rather than, because I feel like a lot of people do talk about the escape of corporate life, and there's no coincidence, so many people are doing it. But I feel like, let's try and recall something that can help people in other ways, but comes from a place of where it was a good time and something exciting and fun was happening. I don't even know if that's answered your question. I've just gone off on one.
I was just wondering, was there, because I had a few people that tested it and they said it actually made them very emotional about something, that it resurfaced the memory, and it also gave them a bit of more understanding about that memory. And then one woman, she said it even made her cry when she got to that point with the NARR engine, and it gave her the output. And I found that pretty interesting, because it is AI in the end, but it's actually us. It's our memories, it's our experiences, and well, I was just curious. And maybe for you, was there something that you discovered about yourself that you didn't know was there?
Yeah, because sometimes when you recall a moment or something that's taken place, we may have been really emotional or overreacted at that time. So now when I look back on things that have happened, I'm like, now, does it really matter? Because I guess time has passed. And at that time, yes, I might have been angry, upset, or vulnerable. But it's almost now I know that happened as a lesson. So that person who was crying about that time, that moment that she had, she probably may not have, because it's almost like I see these things, if you're reacting to things like that, and I felt emotional as well. And so, there has been an emotion recalling some of this. And I know the more time I spend with this, I can recall other moments that I probably held on to for way too long and probably overreacted to at that time.
And then the other thing I see, because a lot of, I think I see two things now, especially on LinkedIn, but I think in content creation in general, is that either way, people are very professional and almost like wearing a mask and stating the credentials and the usual way of how to be seen as professional and to identify with the title that we have and only sharing the big wins or the achievements. So that's one side. And then also I see a lot of times that people are extremely vulnerable, like, crying, oversharing experiences. And personally, I feel a little bit on the last part of the spectrum. I'm very open, like I share a lot of stories that I experienced. And for me, sharing those stories is not a way to get attention. I see it more as these experiences that I had. There may be more people that had these experiences. Or I also had a story about a failure that I had in business and how I see it now, years after that. I lost a lot of money back then. I think it may give people a little bit hope or perspective, or maybe a small shift in their ideas. So that's why I'm sharing it. But I also think that, like, when you're sharing these things, you can easily be seen as weak, or as the other day I shared, I don't know if you read it, but I shared this story about what happened once in a boardroom with a CEO that totally.
Yeah. But what came with that?
Sorry?
Yeah, continue, go on.
No, I'm just wondering your take on this. I mean, there are people that think like, okay, you're just looking for attention, or you may think like, oh, this is weak, or everybody has opinions all the time. So actually, I have two questions about this topic to you. And the one is like, how do you see that in general? Let's start there.
Okay, so referring to your post, and that was actually, you helped the leader like figure something out, and then he overreacted, and because maybe you showed him up a bit, or no, you didn't show him up, that's the wrong words to use. You found holes in the way the business was being run, and I guess you were doing your job. That's why you were there.
That's
And
why I was hired. This is the whole point of the.
Yeah, and he's reacted in this way because it was far worse than what he thought. And again, why he reacted, no one knows. That again, ego. Something's going on. Who knows what's going on? But what I noticed from you sharing that, so many people and women who had experienced the same thing from someone who didn't like to be showed up and start shouting at an employee because of the results, even though you've done nothing wrong. And I didn't know that this went on as much as it did. So I think it's super valuable for other women to hear it, for men to hear that, because I didn't know that was as prevalent as what it was. So that made me think, does this really go on? Just because there's people who are powerful, made a lot of money, doesn't give you the right to speak to people like that, and they've done nothing wrong. So in saying that, to answer your question, is it valuable to be vulnerable? Yeah, of course it is. And it needed to be said. And so many other people related to what you said. So huge value. And can it show weaknesses? Depends what line of work you're in and where you're trying to get to. So it's not always appropriate. It's a fine line.
How comfortable do you feel with sharing, let's say, vulnerable and very personal stories?
Relationship stuff, probably not. But apart from that, I mean, I've touched on relationship stuff with my dad because it was quite tough growing up in my household. But personal relationships with another partner, I probably wouldn't go there. But some people do, and no judgment. I just feel like, you can. Where do you stop sharing? Because you can, and I just feel like personal, like private relationships with a partner, I probably wouldn't, just to protect myself and them. But stuff with my dad and my family, and I'm fine because I guess it's part of growing up, and loads of other people might have experienced what I had. So, and it doesn't, I guess it's the way you tell the story. Are you looking for likes and sympathy, or are you just being open and just getting things off your chest because you feel comfortable in doing so?
Yeah. So basically you're saying you are feeling comfortable with certain limits, of course, like there's certain things that the risk of sharing a personal story where there are people involved that we know well in our personal life is too high for, and what's the whole purpose of sharing it. I mean, it's not in balance, I think. But yeah, for the sake of, I think, helping people and sharing some things to maybe help them change their perspective, then it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because there's ways you can tell a story without being explicit in how you tell it. You can tell a story without giving people, you can give detail, but they don't need to know the actual intricate stuff that has gone on. You can give people the theme of what's gone on, but I don't feel like you need to, I must say X-rated, but you're not going there as in giving everyone the words that were spoken. You're giving people overview stories. And that's the way I like to tell the story. People don't need to know the actual intricate stuff that has gone on, but you can give a summary of what has gone on, and then what's the change? Because you can tell a story and you don't just end at the end, do you? It's what have you learned from the story? What have you taken away? So I like to give an overview, and then this is what I'm doing now, or this is, yes, something negative happened, but now something good's happened, or if it's a feel good story, great, you just share that. And again, we learn from the good and the bad. It doesn't need to always be, yes, this negative thing has happened, but you're not staying in that low vibration, are you? Like, yes, this has happened, however, this is what I'm doing now, and it doesn't need to be that way. So yeah, there are ways, and I've learned again through your tool, it's very good at flipping the narrative from where you were to where you are now.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing I've been training it on, because I for every story and every experience, the point of sharing it is always what has changed, what has shifted after we experienced this, and that takeaway, and that's what it's all about. But from everything that you shared lately online, on LinkedIn, do you use other channels as well?
I am pretty much all in on LinkedIn, and I have been this last year.
Okay. Was there anything that you, from what you shared, that surprised you? Any reaction to that someone had, or maybe somebody who sent you a message, or anything that came out after you being more open online about your stories?
Yeah, I think so. So not only in the comments, I've had DMs as well, where just people have said, "Oh, didn't realize this had happened," and they've congratulated on what I'm doing now, because we've had like hard times, but they relate to it as well, and they'll share their experience. So it's almost like someone doesn't have to have had the exact experience, but people, as you say, people like to hear stories. That's a human experience. And when someone hears a story, then it makes them more comfortable sharing their experience, which could be totally unrelated. But that is the power of creating stories, or not even creating, but retelling your story. But you've created it through the tool. So yeah, it's just powerful that you can relay a story, and strangers leave comments, and then people come out of the woodwork and say, "Oh," and reconnect with you. So yeah, it's just really powerful on that front also.
Yeah, so for me also, since it's actually not been that long that I'm on LinkedIn again. I took a break for 2 years after my professional career, and I had a startup in AI also before, and part of it was sold, and then I moved to Mallorca, and so I kind of I didn't, even if I opened LinkedIn, I was already like, I got overwhelmed from all these professionals and because I wasn't in it, so I had a break, 2 years. No LinkedIn. And then I came back on LinkedIn last year, November, and I decided whatever I'm sharing now is going to be only about things that really matter to me, things that are have a certain value in it. And I feel sometimes not comfortable to share it. I sometimes have this thought like, oh, what are the people from my old life going to think about me when I'm sharing all these personal stories? Like, they know me in a very different way. And that's a crazy thing, because then you start thinking about how other people perceive you while they're not even, I don't even talk to them anymore for more than 2 years. So why would I bother, with that? But I still decided, okay, I continue to share whatever I feel is important, or what comes up. And yeah, often I don't feel comfortable, but I still do it. And it has brought me also like a lot of opportunities, a lot of doors opened, and I met really nice people, actually also here in Mallorca, through LinkedIn, through being open. Like they feel as if they already know you and they connect with you. And like last week, a woman, she came here to my house, and we also did an interview. And I have like new clients that I got through being open. So I think it's such a big asset if we just release the whole professional mask and just connect with our truth and connect with our true stories.
Releasing the professional mask. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. But why do you think most of us are keeping that mask, or why are we hiding ourselves?
Societal expectation. I think it's the old way. Because if you think the old way was the way you spoke about LinkedIn, it was so formal previously, wasn't it? And it was all about having the mask, that the man in the suit, credentials. It was like a CV, wasn't it? And I guess maybe it's come across from other social media platforms. If you want to build a personal brand, you have to be open. You have to talk about your core values, your beliefs, what you are, what you're not, your why, your ideal client. It's not just about your ideal client and how you solve problems, which is how it always used to be. So now a brand is how you help people, but who you are and what you're not, and how you solve problems. And a lot of building a personal brand now is about actually just being open and transparent, and because people will choose to align with you or not on the basis of your beliefs. That is the way kind of the world has gone. Because even I know on other social media platforms, people use this terminology, I stand with. And I don't know where that's come from in the last few years, I stand with. So it's almost like you're on one side or the other. And I don't really agree with that. But I don't really talk like that. I don't really talk like I stand with, because I just feel like that's cancel culture, I believe.
Yeah. But just in a nicer package, right?
So yeah, talking without a mask is more human, and it's not robotic, and that allows yourself to attract the people you do. And that's worked for you in Mallorca, where people are, and on a personal scale and a professional side. So there's so much value to being open and transparent, and you set your own boundaries. As long as you have your own boundaries, you're not telling, again, each to their own. You can go as personal as you want, but I guess, people just got to be aware of, yes, it is still a professional platform. So if you are being open, honest and transparent, and you're aware of what your boundaries are, then you will attract your tribe, you will attract your people. They will come and talk to you on a personal level, and then you can do business with them as well. If you know.
Yeah, and there's always people that don't resonate, and that's fine, right? You don't need to be for everyone.
It doesn't need to be. We can agree to disagree.
What would you tell people about NARR? Like, if you had to describe it to someone, to a friend, how would you describe NARR?
How it's helped me. So NARR in itself just helps you really go into depth with what you already have. You have hours worth and years worth of life. Our life experience is endless. It goes back to when we first appeared. went from birth. So we can talk about anything, but NARR actually allows you to explore what you have within. It allows deep introspection if you're open to going there. So you've got to be open to doing this. So it is almost like on the last call we had, I spoke about it being therapeutic. You've got to be open to exploring what lies within. So if you're open to doing that, and you can actually think, yeah, let's share this, but let's actually look at it from a mature view now, because I'm looking at things now, and as a teenager, I spoke recently about being a 17-year-old and tasty, and it was all turbulent at home. But now I just look back and laugh at it because, it's water under the bridge, time has passed, and I'm a totally different person now. But how would I have recalled that story if it wasn't for the app? Probably not. It was just locked away somewhere. So I don't even know how these things are even coming up now. But I know the more time I spend with it, I am forever now thinking of stories that I can tell and relate it to what I'm doing now. But in a positive, like we don't need to look at things. Yes, a negative experience doesn't mean ongoing negativity. It can be definitely flipped and turned into, I've learned this, and no regrets. So, try and live with no regrets at all, and just reflect and share a story, and just be grateful for that experience.
I like that. All right. Yeah, because that's in the end, I mean, there's a lot of discussion going on, like AI, so much AI slop is being generated. I think personally, AI has a lot of advantages. I mean, if I can build an app with no technical background, no even experience in anything from creating wireframes to product management to product ownership, I've never done any of this. And so this is what AI right now can do for us. And we have so many more capabilities, in not just in this, but in so many more fields. But it's also a bit of a challenge because there's a group that doesn't use AI, and then the differences are becoming bigger and bigger. But that's one part. But I think the other thing that I find really interesting right now is, and that's what you said also, like it's almost therapeutic when you spoke to it, and it helps you process, and it brings up new memories and connects the dots. So it's a bit like if we use AI just for creating output, or we can use AI for getting to know ourselves better, digging deeper into our experiences, and then from there add our own layer to it, and then let AI assist or help us in creating outputs. But there are different takes on that. Do you have anything that you want to share about this topic?
Yeah, because
it's a long question.
It's not being intrusive at all, because it is just, it reacts to what you give it. So ultimately, I think it's great because I'm giving it so much, and then it's helping me to think in another way, how I felt in that time, and what was I going through at that time, and who was that emotion aimed at in that moment. And if now I'm telling the story, who could receive this message now?
Can you give an example of that, maybe?
Yeah, so actually in recent times, I was looking at a post, and I kind of touched on it with the beginning with the end in mind. So I can tell that story or another one in recent times. I actually, because what this has got me doing now. So I'll be out, and then I'll think, I'll hear something, and I'm like, I can relate to that. And so I'll write down like a little note, and then relate it to a past story that I had. So I wrote something down actually, but I haven't even told the story yet. Let me find it, because I actually wrote this down, because I was thinking I'm going to come back to this and actually talk about this story.
So next time you can just go into NARR and there is a tab which is stories. So it's like a diary, daily, things that you don't think it's even worth a story, and then it's transforming.
I didn't realize you could do that. I didn't realize you could do that. I think, okay, so I've kind of touched on that previously in the previous story about pricing, how I used to underprice and just take jobs just to get paid, like, rather than actually know this is the worth, the value of the job. And that came round down to self-value and what you think of yourself and self-worth. So telling that story, a lot of people related to that, starting out in their business. But it's something that I try not to compromise on at all now, because when you start messing around with your pricing, you don't believe in what you're doing, and you're almost like giving it away, and then you end up resenting like the job and like the people you're working with. So that was something I had to deal with quickly, like when I started this photography business, the previous business that I had. So again, a lot of people related to that when I told that.
Okay. But I can imagine, especially if you're just starting out and there's a lot of competition. This happens a lot, right? You're undervaluing your service or your years of experience, or And so did finding that story make you aware of this, and you weren't aware before, or how did it work?
I was aware of that, and I didn't want, because when you do have quiet moments in your business, it's easy. Okay, it's easy just to accept a job, and but I kind of know when they're the right person now, because if the first question is about price, and I just think, I don't want to go through this, like, where if they see the value of the outcome, they won't really be questioning the price. But if it's always about budget, then I know they're not even the best people to work with, because they start micromanaging. And when someone values what you do, you don't have any of that. They just want the outcome, that they're happy just to pay. So I know that the type of client I prefer to work with. So it's up to
them. And who is that?
I guess because they, one, haven't got the capacity. So who I help are ICF-credentialed coaches. And if you're sat with clients adding depth and creating breakthroughs all day, that can be quite energy draining on a coach. So at the end of that day, do they want to be getting onto LinkedIn and help and getting their message out to their audience? So I guess I feel that gap in that I help clients connect to their ideal audience, and that's through the ghostwriting, through the outreach and the photography. And I guess it can be quite time consuming for people to do that. So it's something I enjoy doing. I just don't care what people think, as in judgment, where a lot of times people don't take action because they're worried about what people may think of what they look like. But I'll live your personal and professional life, and with no fear of judgment, and anything's possible, right?
Absolutely. It's
You're
been
welcome.
a pleasure talking to you again and diving a bit deeper in these topics.